$23 million. I whispered, staring at my shaking hands. The watering can clattered to the floor, water pooling around my slippers. My phone screen still glowed, estate of Richard Camden. Please contact us immediately. If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe, we post one every week. I called the number before I could second-guess myself. Ms. Hayes. The man's voice was sharp, professional. Daniel Reeves, attorney for Mr. Camden's estate. The documents are in your inbox, but before signing, our associate Claire Monroe must speak with you privately. Sensitive matters. Sensitive. I'm afraid I can't elaborate. She'll contact you within 48 hours. Until then, please, tell no one. Tell no one. Impossible. I hung up, heart pounding. There was one person I had to tell. Ethan, I whispered, dialing my son. Straight to voicemail. Sweetheart, it's Mom. Call me, something incredible's happened. He didn't. By afternoon, I couldn't stand the silence. I grabbed my keys, ignoring the rain smearing against the windows. He'd see, I thought as I merged onto the highway. He'd finally look at me the way he used to, before the distance, before the polite calls that ended too soon. Money couldn't buy love, but maybe it could rebuild it. The headlights appeared in my rearview mirror without warning, blinding, close. Too close. Back off, I muttered, tapping the brakes. The SUV accelerated, slamming into my bumper. My car jolted forward, tires skidding on wet asphalt. Another hit. Harder. Stop. Metal screamed. The world flipped, glass shattered, and everything dissolved into sirens and blackness. When I woke, the air reeked of antiseptic. Ms. Hayes, you're at mercy, General, a doctor said gently. Multiple fractures, but you're very lucky. Lucky. Right. I reached for my phone with bandaged hands. Call my son, I rasped. The nurse held the phone to my ear. Ethan Hayes. Crisp, hurried. Ethan, it's Mom. I've been in an accident. Silence. Mom, I'm walking into a board meeting. Can this wait? 3 days, Ethan. I almost. I'll try to visit soon. Things are tight. Click. Tears blurred the ceiling tiles. $23 million, and my son couldn't spare 10 minutes. Days passed. Machines beeped, nurses came and went. The world outside my hospital room kept spinning without me. Then came a familiar voice. Eleanor. Dr. Lillian Moore stepped in, tablet in hand, her brow furrowed. We'd taught together for decades before retiring, her in biochemistry, me in literature. Now she looked less like a doctor and more like a friend bracing herself for bad news. The police think it was hydroplaning, she said carefully. It wasn't, I whispered. A black SUV pushed me off the road. Her eyes narrowed. Are you sure? I nodded weakly. Someone didn't want me to reach Ethan. Or to talk to the lawyer. Lillian squeezed my hand. Could it be tied to the inheritance? I don't know. Daniel said Claire Monroe would explain, but she hasn't called. Before Lillian could reply, a commotion erupted in the hallway. I don't care about visiting hours, I'm her son. Ethan's voice. Sharp, commanding. My heart stuttered. Lillian instinctively stepped between me and the door as Ethan appeared, tailored suit, polished shoes, expression unreadable. For a second, he looked like the boy who once brought me dandelions. Then his phone buzzed, and the softness vanished. Mom, he said, tone clipped, businesslike. Ethan, I managed, my voice trembling. Why now? He didn't answer. But behind him, in the corridor, a woman in a gray coat waited, watching me. "Who's that?" I asked. Ethan turned, startled. "She said her name's Claire Monroe," he muttered. My pulse quickened. The woman from the law firm. And she was not supposed to find me this soon. "Mother," Ethan said, his eyes sweeping over the bruises and casts like he was reviewing an annual report. "You look better than I expected," he added. "I almost died," I whispered, the words slipping out before I could stop them. A flicker, guilt, or maybe irritation, passed across his face. "I've been buried in a major acquisition," he said smoothly. "The timing of your situation was unfortunate." Dr. Lillian Moore made a quiet sound that was equal parts disbelief and disgust. "Still showing up, Dr. Moore?" Ethan said, noticing her at last. "Still showing up," she replied evenly. The tension stretched thin until a woman appeared behind him, slender, composed, her elegance effortless. A cream-colored dress, polished grace, dark hair in a perfect chignon. "You must be Ethan's mother," she said warmly, stepping forward. "I'm Claire, his wife. I've wanted to meet you, though I wish it weren't like this." Her name hit me like static. Claire Monroe. Daniel Reeves had mentioned her, the associate meant to discuss sensitive matters. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. "Yes. Claire and I were married 3 months ago." "Small ceremony in Barbados," she said with a polite smile. "Ethan thought it'd be too hard for you to travel, but I said we should come visit when we got back." My pulse stuttered. No wedding invitation. No mention. Another secret. But then her expression changed. As she reached my bedside, her smile froze. The color drained from her face, and her hand trembled. "Are you all right?" I asked. Her gaze locked on mine with stunned recognition. She faltered, voice breaking. You look exactly like someone I used to know." Ethan frowned, confused. "Claire, what is this?" She didn't answer at first. Then, softly, she whispered, "You're Eleanor Hayes. Richard Camden's niece." The air went still. Ethan's jaw tightened. "How do you know about Uncle Richard?" I asked carefully. Claire blinked, recovering her composure. "Your son mentioned him." "I'm sorry for your loss. Were you close?" Before I could respond, Ethan cut in. "Mother, we need to talk about any paperwork you've received. For tax reasons." Lillian stepped forward sharply. "Eleanor needs rest, not an audit." "It's important," Ethan insisted. "Has anyone contacted you about documents? Anything to sign?" My heart thudded. "Tell no one," Daniel had said. "Nothing," I lied softly. "Just medical forms." Claire's eyes didn't leave mine. Something unspoken flickered there, warning, maybe fear. "We should go," she said suddenly, touching Ethan's arm. "Your mother needs rest. We'll come back tomorrow." As they turned to leave, she glanced back, her expression unreadable. "It was illuminating to meet you, Mrs. Hayes." When the door shut, the room felt colder. "Eleanor," Lillian murmured. "You're in danger." That night, she refused to leave, claiming she'd stay, just in case. We both knew it wasn't just precaution. The air in that hospital room had changed, Julie's shock, Ethan's urgency, their strange questions. Something dark had followed them in. Sleep came in fragments. Between beeping machines and half-dreams, Richard Camden's voice from my childhood echoed, "Question what seems convenient, Ellie. Especially kindness from those who profit from it." Morning brought a knock. "Miss Hayes." A young officer stepped in, badge gleaming, barely old enough to rent a car. "Officer Ryan Brooks. I understand you reported another vehicle forced you off the road." I nodded. "Black SUV. Tinted windows. No plate I could see. And you're sure the contact was deliberate? They hit me 3 times, I said steadily. That's not an accident. He scribbled in his notebook. Any reason someone might want to harm you? 23 million reasons flashed through my mind. But something, instinct, kept me silent. Not that I'm aware of. He nodded. We'll check nearby traffic cameras, but that stretch is mostly dead zones. I'll keep you updated. After he left, a hospital volunteer appeared with yellow roses and a small card. Wishing you a speedy recovery. Looking forward to knowing you better. Claire's handwriting, elegant, controlled. Nothing like the panic in her eyes yesterday. Lillian returned mid-morning, carrying my laptop and charger. Thought you might want distractions, she said, setting them down. Any word from Ethan? I gestured to the flowers. His wife sent those. Lillian read the card, her brow furrowing. Claire Monroe Hayes. I knew that name sounded familiar. She tapped on her tablet. Here, Monroe and Partners. Corporate fraud and whistleblower cases. Claire's their rising star. The professional photo on the firm's website showed a poised, confident woman, nothing like the trembling stranger I'd met. A fraud attorney married to an executive at Westbrook Group, I murmured. That's quite the pairing. Like a conservation officer marrying a poacher, Lillian muttered. When she left to speak with my doctor, I opened my laptop. Daniel Reeves' email sat unopened, waiting. I clicked it. $23 million. Assets across 3 states. A sealed packet of personal effects. All I had to do was sign. My finger hovered over the line. Then Richard's voice whispered again, question what seems convenient. Instead, I opened a browser and typed, Richard Camden Investment Fraud Westbrook Group. The search results made my chest tighten. Articles detailing Richard's accusations, claims that Westbrook was running a massive Ponzi scheme, defrauding investors by billions. The company had dismissed him as delusional, senile. But the most recent post, dated days before his death, claimed he held irrefutable evidence, and that he'd planned to hand it to a family member he trusted completely. My vision blurred. I closed the laptop just as Lillian returned. They're discharging you tomorrow, she said. You'll stay with me. I need to go home, I replied softly. My own space. Eleanor, you can barely walk. I didn't answer. Because somewhere, deep down, I already knew, someone didn't want me to make it home at all. And after what happened, I told her I'd hire a home health aide. I cut her off gently but firmly. You've done enough. She recognized the stubborn set of my jaw, the same look I'd worn when I fought for tenure, when I raised Ethan alone after his father died, when I refused the second mastectomy that doctors said would only extend my life by months. Lillian sighed, defeated. At least let me arrange security cameras, she said finally. Front and back entrances, I agreed, feeling relief coil with dread. My quiet academic life had turned into something dangerous, something with stakes I barely understood. My phone chimed, a text from an unknown number. Don't sign anything. Don't trust anyone asking about documents. I'll reach out when you're home. CM Claire Monroe. My daughter-in-law. The attorney tied to Richard Camden. The woman married to my son. I deleted the message instantly and looked up to find Lillian watching me closely. What aren't you telling me? She asked softly. Everything's fine, I lied, knowing it might be the last simple lie I ever told my oldest friend before everything shifted. One thing had become crystal clear, whatever had killed Richard Camden was now coming for me, and somehow my son was caught in the middle. The drive from hospital to home left me breathless. Even in Lillian's luxury sedan, every bump shot pain through my mending bones. My small Victorian cottage, once pure comfort, now looked different, half sanctuary, half trap. The security team finished this morning, Lillian said, helping me up the porch with my walker. Cameras everywhere, motion sensors, direct police alert. That's excessive, I murmured, secretly grateful. It's necessary, she said, unlocking the door. The aide arrives at 4. I checked her background myself, impeccable record. Inside, everything sat where I'd left it that morning before the accident. The watering can on the windowsill. The peace lilies drooping in thirst. The half cup of tea, fossilized on the side table. Yet something felt wrong, the air, disturbed. Someone's been here, I whispered. Lillian frowned. That's impossible. I've had the only key. No tampering. She disappeared down the hallway toward my office while I eased onto the couch, fighting dizziness. When she returned, her expression said everything. Your desk drawers were searched, carefully. Everything replaced, but out of order. Filing cabinet untouched. I nodded, oddly relieved. The cabinet held only decades of routine records, tax forms, medical reports, Ethan's school files. The desk, though, might have contained Richard Camden's documents had I received them before the crash. After Lillian reluctantly left for her shift, promising to return that night, I sat in the stillness of my house, listening. The grandfather clock in the hallway, my father's pride, marked time with surgical precision, each tick a heartbeat of my new, fragile life. At 2:17 p.m., the burner phone Lillian had bought me buzzed. A message appeared, Lakeside Park, East Bench, 4:30 p.m. No name. No preamble. The aide, Mrs. Abernathy, a solid woman with salt and pepper hair and arms built for heavy lifting, arrived at 4. After changing my bandages and managing my medication, she blinked at my request. You want to go to the park? Today? Just for air, I said with a smile. Doctor's orders. She hesitated but agreed. 20 minutes. In the wheelchair. Lakeside Park was close, a short, trembling ride along leaf-lined paths. At the far edge, I spotted a lone figure on a bench overlooking the lake. Let's stop here, I told Mrs. Abernathy. Maybe you could grab us water. There's a stand by the playground. Reluctantly, she went. Claire approached fast, her elegant style replaced with jeans, hoodie, sunglasses. We don't have much time, she said quietly. They're watching your house. Who's they? And why meet like this? What's your real connection to Richard Camden? Her calm cracked. I'm truly Ethan's wife, that's real. But I'm also the attorney Camden hired to protect you and deliver certain evidence. You married my son as part of your case. The idea almost made me laugh. No, she said sharply. I met Ethan at a charity event last year, long before Richard contacted our firm. Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Neither do I. She glanced toward the path. Your accident wasn't random. Westbrook's people think you already have the documents. What documents? Proof of large-scale fraud at the top of Westbrook Group. Your uncle, Camden, spent years gathering it. False statements, offshore accounts, manipulated assets, enough to expose a multi-billion-dollar Ponzi scheme. The air thickened around me. And Ethan? Is he involved? Pain shadowed her face. That's complicated. Victor Westbrook's been grooming him, getting him involved in deals he doesn't understand. He's in danger, too. You're defending him. I'm trying to save him. And what about you? A courier who worked with Camden will deliver the files tomorrow. Once you have them, we go to the SEC. It's the only way. I stared at her. You'll lose everything. Probably, she said simply. My job. Maybe my marriage. But it's the right thing to do. And I care about Ethan. He deserves a chance to make this right. She walked away, blending into a cluster of joggers as Mrs. Abernathy reappeared, suspicious. Who was that? Just another birdwatcher, I lied, gazing toward the heron standing motionless in the shallows, patient and watchful, waiting to strike. That night, sleep never came. Mrs. Abernathy's soft snores filled the guest room. I stared at the ceiling, piecing together the last week's revelations, $23 million, a deliberate attempt on my life, my son entangled in criminal deception, his wife risking everything to protect me. Had my life always carried these hidden threads? Or had I been too buried in research and syllabi to see the darkness surrounding my family? Dawn arrived gray and cold, rain streaking my windows. Mrs. Abernathy helped me bathe and dress with efficient kindness. By 10, I sat in my reading chair by the bay window, Pride and Prejudice open but unread, eyes on the rain-blurred street. At exactly 11:17 a.m., a delivery truck stopped in front of my house. The driver, a young man with a neatly trimmed beard and a standard courier uniform, approached the porch carrying a medium-sized package. Mrs. Abernathy answered the door, signed the delivery receipt, and brought it to me. From Reeves and Associates, she read from the label before setting it beside my chair. My heart kicked. Richard Camden's files. I kept my expression calm, thanking her before suggesting she prepare lunch. When she disappeared into the kitchen, I examined the package without opening it. It was heavier than I expected, sealed with professional precision. What secrets could weigh this much, secrets worth killing for? I slid it beneath the Afghan just as my phone buzzed. Mom, I need to see you today. Ethan's voice carried a tension that made my stomach tighten. I'm not feeling well, I said carefully. The doctor wants me to rest. This is important, he insisted. It's about Uncle Richard. My pulse spiked. What about him? Not over the phone. I'll be there at 2. The line went dead. 2 hours. Enough time to see what was inside before Ethan arrived, if I could get privacy. When Mrs. Abernathy brought my soup and medication, I pretended to swallow the pain pills but slipped them into my sleeve. I needed a clear head. A half hour later, I called weakly, Mrs. Abernathy, could you get my blue cardigan from the bedroom closet? I'm chilly. The moment she left, I retrieved the package and tucked it into the hollow base of my father's old grandfather clock. By the time she returned with the sweater, I was sitting again, feigning drowsiness. Thank you. I think I'll nap now. She smiled approvingly. I'll be in the kitchen. I closed my eyes, waited until her footsteps faded, then counted to 300 before standing carefully. Without my walker, every step felt like walking on knives. Reaching the clock, I pulled the box free and made my way to the bathroom, the only place I could lock the door. Sitting on the closed toilet, I opened the box with trembling fingers. Inside were 2 envelopes, one large and sealed, the other smaller with my name written in Richard's familiar hand. My throat tightened as I unfolded the letter. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're in danger. Inside the sealed envelope is evidence of criminal activity within the Westbrook Group that spans 20 years. This truth could destroy lives, including Ethan's. I'm sorry. Victor Westbrook recruited your son after I began my investigation. He's been used as leverage. Ethan may be involved in crimes, but I believe he doesn't yet grasp their scale. Trust Claire Monroe. She's the only attorney I know with both the courage and integrity to see this through. The decision is now yours. With love, Richard. Tears stung my eyes. He had known about Ethan, yet still trusted me with this burden. I held the sealed envelope, its weight felt like judgment itself. Before I could open it, a knock startled me. Mrs. Hayes. Mrs. Abernathy's voice came through the door. Are you all right? You've been in there a while. Just a moment, I called, hastily slipping everything back into the packaging. When I emerged, leaning on the sink for support, her gaze fell to the parcel under my arm. "Let me take that," she offered. I tightened my grip. "No need, it's just some old photographs I want to show Ethan." Something flickered in her eyes, a hesitation quickly masked. "Your son called. He's early. 20 minutes. As she helped me back to the chair, I couldn't shake the feeling she was watching me too closely. Was it care, or suspicion? The clock chimed once, it sounded hollow. 90 minutes early. I needed to know what Richard had uncovered before Ethan arrived. "I think I'll rest before he comes," I murmured. "Of course," Mrs. Abernathy said, helping me to my room. "I'll check on you soon." The moment the door closed, I moved quickly. From my nightstand, I took the small pearl-handled letter opener Lillian had given me on my 30th year of teaching. My hands trembled as I sliced open the manila envelope. Inside were flash drives, spreadsheets, and photographs. Dozens of them, Victor Westbrook shaking hands with powerful men in restaurants, boardrooms, private homes. And in several, Ethan, my son, appeared beside them, uneasy, passing envelopes across tables. The timestamps told a story of growing involvement. I scanned the financial documents. I wasn't an accountant, but I recognized deceit when I saw it. Money shifted through empty companies, fake returns, non-existent assets. And then the emails, Victor and Ethan discussing controlled disclosures, narrative management. In one, Victor congratulated him for handling our friends at the commission and promised special compensation. My breath came shallow. My son wasn't just a pawn, he was part of it. My heart broke and hardened all at once. I gathered the evidence and returned it exactly as I'd found it. From my jewelry box, I took the small brass key to the secret compartment in my antique vanity. I'd once hidden love letters there, then my cancer results. Now it would hold the truth that could destroy my son, or save him. The latch clicked just as I heard a car door slam. I went to the window. Not Ethan's sedan. A black SUV idled at the curb, the same kind that had run me off the road. Two men sat inside, watching. When I moved the curtain, one lifted his hand and pointed at my window. My pulse thudded. I shoved the envelope into the compartment, closed it, and replaced the false panel. Then came the knock. "Your son's here," Mrs. Abernathy said through the door. "And he's brought someone with him." "Tell them I'll be right out," I called, forcing calm into my voice. In the bathroom, I splashed water on my face and studied my reflection. The bruises had faded, but new lines, fear, resolve, had taken their place. I looked like what I was, a 60-year-old woman caught in a game she never asked to play. But I'd been underestimated before. I straightened my cardigan, dabbed on lipstick, and took 3 slow breaths. When I stepped into the living room, Ethan stood near the fireplace, tension carved into his frame. Beside him waited Victor Westbrook. Beside him wasn't Victor but a younger man, broad-shouldered, impassive, the kind who scanned a room before entering it. "Mother," Ethan said, his voice too cheerful to be real. "You're looking better." "Amazing what surviving a near-death experience does for one's glow," I replied dryly. "And this is?" "Marcus Fisher," the man said, not extending his hand. "Mr. Westbrook's chief of security. I'm here to make sure everything goes smoothly." "How considerate," I murmured, easing into my reading chair. "And what exactly are we smoothing today, Ethan?" My son glanced at Fisher, who gave a barely visible nod. "We need to talk about Uncle Richard," Ethan began, pacing. "He may have sent you some things that could be misinterpreted." "Misinterpreted?" I echoed. "That's a curious choice of word." The old man had become unstable, Fisher interjected, tone clipped. "Paranoid. Making accusations against respected financial institutions, your employer among them." Ethan stopped pacing. Mother, this is serious. If Richard sent you any documents, they might contain proprietary material that, taken out of context, could look incriminating. Incriminating enough to run someone off the road? I asked softly. Fisher's face didn't move, but something cold sparked behind his eyes. Ethan's head snapped toward me. What are you talking about? Someone forced me off the highway the day I learned about my inheritance, I said evenly. A black SUV. Not unlike the one parked outside. Ethan's color drained. He turned to Fisher. You said it was an accident. The police report confirmed hydroplaning, Fisher replied. Because that's what they were told, I countered. No witnesses. No cameras. Convenient. Mrs. Abernathy appeared in the doorway. Everything all right, Miss Hayes? You seem upset. We're fine, I said, though I noticed her phone visible in her hand, ready to dial if things went sideways. Ethan dropped onto the couch, rubbing his temples, a motion that pierced my chest with memories of the little boy he once was. Mother, please. If Uncle Richard sent you anything, just give it to me, for your safety. My safety, I repeated. Now it's a concern. It always has been, Fisher said smoothly. Mr. Camden made enemies. Dangerous ones. They might think his next of kin inherited more than money. The unspoken threat lingered. Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes, fear was winning. Ethan, I said softly. We need to talk, alone. That's not advisable, Fisher cut in. It wasn't a suggestion, I said, voice sharp as glass. You can wait outside, or I call Officer Brooks and report trespassers on my property. Your choice. His jaw flexed, rage barely restrained. I half expected him to defy me. But Ethan surprised us both. Wait in the car, Marcus, he said quietly. This is my mother. 15 minutes. The security man hesitated, torn between orders and chain of command. 15 minutes, he said finally. Then we proceed as planned. As Fisher left, Mrs. Abernathy lingered. Shall I bring tea? That would be perfect, I said. Maybe take 20 minutes, Earl Grey, back of the pantry. Understanding flickered in her eyes. Of course, Miss Hayes. A proper steep takes time. When the door closed, Ethan sagged, the corporate mask slipping. You have no idea what you've stepped into, he whispered. Then tell me, I said, calm over the storm inside me. Tell me how my son got tangled up with men who would try to kill his mother. I didn't know about the crash, he swore. Victor told me you were being monitored, not harmed. Monitored, I repeated. Because of what Richard sent me. He nodded, defeated. You don't get it, Mom. Westbrook isn't just a company, it's a machine. Victor owns regulators, judges, politicians. When Uncle Richard started stirring trouble, Victor promised to handle it legally. I never thought he'd. Murder, I said. Of an old man. Of me. Tears welled in his eyes. I'm in too deep. At first, it was just introductions, connecting Victor with the right people, smoothing compliance issues. Then came adjustments. Documents edited to satisfy auditors. Fraud, I said. He swallowed. By the time I realized it, I was complicit. If Westbrook falls, I fall with it. And Claire? I asked. Does she know? A bitter laugh escaped him. Claire. She married the man she thought I was. When she finds out what I've done, she'll walk, right after she helps the feds bury me. You love her, I said quietly. She's the only good thing I've ever had, he said. And I ruined that too. The grandfather clock ticked through the silence. Fisher would soon return. What does Victor think you'll find here? I asked. Ethan rubbed his face. Richard's files. Victor's convinced they hold everything, account numbers, names, transactions, dates. Enough to sink him, me, everyone. If that's true, I said, he'll never let you walk away. Ethan nodded, hollow. If I go back empty-handed, best case, I'm the scapegoat. Worst, I disappear. The ticking felt louder now. Mrs. Abernathy was buying us minutes, not hours. Listen carefully, I said. I do have Richard's files. But I'm not giving them to Victor. Mother, you don't know what he's capable of. Oh, I know, I said. But there's another way. Claire has been in touch with the SEC. She has a plan. Ethan froze. Claire. What? She was working with Richard before you married her, I said. She specializes in whistleblower cases. He stared at me, pale. That's impossible. She told me herself. She wants to help you, Ethan. She thinks you can still make this right. He shot to his feet, pacing like a trapped man. So this whole time, our marriage, my life, it was all a setup. No, I said firmly. She met you before the case reached her firm. She fell in love with you first. But now she's caught between her duty and her heart. Anger and heartbreak collided in his eyes. The man before me wasn't a villain, he was a son standing on the edge of redemption, or ruin. Why should I believe any of this? For all I know, you're trying to manipulate me, Ethan said, voice trembling between anger and disbelief. Because I'm your mother, I answered quietly. And despite everything, I still love you. You have a choice now, Ethan. Stand with Victor and keep covering his crimes, or work with Claire and me to end this. His expression broke apart, the facade crumbling. There's no good outcome for me. Either way, I lose. There's doing what's right, I said. Something your father would have expected. At the mention of his father, he flinched. Outside, a car door slammed shut. Fisher's patience had run out. We're out of time, I said urgently. I need your decision. Are you with us, or with Victor? Ethan stood frozen, the weight of his choices pressing down until his shoulders seemed to collapse under it. The front door creaked open. Fisher stepped in, and something changed in Ethan's eyes, resolution, maybe, or surrender. I need to see the files myself, he whispered. I have to know what's in them before I decide. It wasn't commitment, but it wasn't refusal either. Before I could answer, Fisher filled the doorway, his frame blotting out the light. Time's up, he said. Mr. Westbrook expects an update. Ethan straightened instantly, the polished corporate version of him sliding back into place. My mother and I have reached an understanding, he said smoothly. She'll provide what we need, but she needs time to locate the materials. Fisher's eyes narrowed. Where are the documents, Mrs. Hayes? Not here, I lied evenly. Dr. Lillian Moore has them in her safe deposit box. A precaution after my accident. Then we'll visit this Dr. Moore together, Fisher said, taking a step toward me. Ethan stepped between us. That won't be necessary. My mother's agreed to retrieve everything tomorrow. We should inform Victor. He turned to me with feigned tenderness. Mother, you should rest now. I'll come back in the morning to help you with this. The message beneath his words was clear. He needed time, to think, to decide where his loyalties lay, to come to terms with Claire's truth. Of course, dear, I said, matching his act. I am tired. Fisher didn't move. Mr. Westbrook was explicit. We don't leave without the documents. You'll have them, Ethan replied firmly. Once my mother is strong enough to retrieve them. Pressing her tonight will only delay things. The air thickened between them. Finally, Fisher reached for his phone. I'll need to confirm with Mr. Westbrook. As he stepped into the hallway, Ethan leaned in close, whispering so softly I could barely hear. If what you said about Claire is true, tell her to meet us at Riverside Park. 10 a.m., Northern Gazebo. His eyes searched mine. I'm not promising anything. I just need to understand. Fisher returned moments later, unreadable as ever. Mr. Westbrook agrees to your schedule, Mrs. Hayes. But he's sending additional security to monitor your home overnight, for your protection. The false warmth in his tone was unmistakable. Ethan shot me a warning glance. Play along. How thoughtful, I said smoothly. Though I already have my caregiver here, Mrs. Abernathy. Yes, Fisher said with a thin smile. We're aware. Former military nurse. Quite the resume. The realization that they'd investigated my caregiver sent a chill through me. How long had they been watching? How much did they already know? When they finally left, Ethan giving me a stiff, performative hug under Fisher's watchful eye, Mrs. Abernathy stepped from the kitchen carrying the tea tray. I take it they won't be staying for Earl Grey, she said dryly. No, I exhaled, sinking into the chair. But we have a new problem. They've stationed men outside. She nodded without surprise. I saw the second SUV pull in. 2 men posted east corner. You're very observant for a home health aide, I said. 20 years in military intelligence before nursing school will do that, she replied. Setting down the tray, she pulled up a chair. Now, do you want to tell me what's really happening, Professor Hayes? Because that man wasn't here to protect you. I studied her carefully. Why should I trust you? Because Dr. Moore handpicked me from a list of people she'd trust with her life, she said evenly. And because I just watched that security officer scope your entry points like he's planning a raid. I made my decision. I needed allies, and Lillian Moore's instincts had never failed me. I need to make a call, I said. Call me Helen, she replied. And make it quick. Once I confirmed Helen's background, retired field analyst turned trauma nurse, I laid out the plan. I need to contact Claire Monroe without anyone knowing. And I have to retrieve something from my vanity, unseen. Helen didn't hesitate. 15 minutes. I'll create a diversion. She disappeared down the hall and re-emerged with a compact duffel bag. From it, she pulled out what looked like road flares. Smoke markers, she explained. Non-toxic but realistic enough to get their attention. I'll set them near your garage. When you see smoke, move. While she prepared, I used my burner phone to call Claire. Did he agree? Claire asked, her voice tight with hope. Not yet. But he's listening. He knows about your connection to Richard now. A sharp breath. How did he take it? Badly. Hurt. But he loves you, Claire. That's real. Silence, then a low confession. I never meant to fall for him. It complicated everything. Love usually does, I said softly. Can you bring someone from the SEC tomorrow? Someone who can promise protection if he talks. Possibly, she said. But, Eleanor, you need to know what's in those files. They're not just financial evidence. They tie Westbrook to bribery, coercion, even organized crime. He won't go quietly. Helen motioned from the hallway. 1 minute. I understand the risk, I said. But first, we survive tonight. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Riverside Park. As soon as I ended the call, thick gray smoke began curling past the window. Helen nodded. Now. I moved as fast as my injuries allowed, retrieving Richard's package from its hidden compartment. By the time I returned, Helen was watching through the blinds as both guards left their SUV to check the smoke. We have 3 minutes, she said. They'll search the house tomorrow, I warned. We need to get it out now. She assessed the package quickly. Worth $23 million and several federal indictments, I said. She nodded once. Then the culvert behind the property is our best bet. It connects to the drainage system. I noticed it earlier. I can barely walk, let alone crawl through pipes, I reminded her. You won't have to. She grabbed a heavy-duty freezer bag from the kitchen, sealing the files inside. I'll make the drop while you create a distraction. You're leaving me alone, with them outside. Only briefly, she said. They're watching you, not me. I'll go through the bathroom window, make the delivery, and be back before they realize I ever left. She handed me a slim cell phone. If anything goes wrong, press this button. It connects directly to Dr. Moore and emergency services. Her calmness steadied me even as my pulse thudded in my ears. The security men would return soon, their patience for false alarms was limited. Who should receive the documents? I asked. Not Claire, Helen said immediately. Too dangerous. If they're monitoring your son, they're monitoring his wife. She thought for a moment, her brow furrowed. Dr. Moore's nephew is a detective, organized crime division. He's trained to handle this. I nodded and wrote his name, Officer Ryan Brooks, and badge number on the waterproof bag, adding a note explaining that the contents were evidence of financial crimes tied to my so-called accident. Helen sealed it and slung the package into her bag. Before she could go, I gripped her wrist. Thank you. For trusting me. A hint of a smile touched her lips. In my experience, literature professors rarely invent corporate crime rings. She peeked through the blinds. They're coming back. Make noise. Complain about the smoke. Keep them distracted. I'll be back in 20 minutes. When she slipped out, I shuffled toward the front door, calling irritably about faulty wiring and old garages for anyone listening. Through the window, I saw the men resume their posts, now visibly tenser. One spoke into his radio, his eyes scanning the house. Time stretched painfully. I checked each room as if inspecting smoke damage, making sure to pass every visible window so they'd see me moving normally. At the 18-minute mark, Helen reappeared, ghost-like in the hallway. Package delivered, she whispered. Dr. Moore's nephew will collect it within the hour. Her tone was crisp, professional. Now we prepare for tomorrow. They think you'll be retrieving the papers from a friend's safety deposit box. We'll make that look real. We spent the next hour building that illusion, phone calls to my friend Teresa on speaker, just loud enough for the guards outside to overhear. Helen tracked their positions, noting every shift and identifying blind spots. Then, a message flashed across my burner phone. Changed situation. Victor knows about me. Had to leave home. Staying at Harborview Hotel under my maiden name. Still meeting tomorrow. Bringing someone who can help Ethan. See. Claire's been compromised, I told Helen. Westbrook knows she was helping my brother. Helen's expression hardened. That raises the stakes. If he's exposing her, he's clearing loose ends. He won't stop there. You mean Ethan? She didn't answer. Her silence said everything. Get some rest, she murmured. I'll keep watch. Sleep came fitfully, haunted by fragments of fear and memory. Around midnight, the motion lights flared in the backyard. Helen appeared at my door, whispering, "Stay low." She disappeared into the hallway. Minutes later, she returned. False alarm, she said, though her eyes told a different story. What is it? There are 4 men outside now, not 2. And they're armed. They're planning to take me, I whispered. Possibly. Or they're preparing for tomorrow. Either way, we adjust. She checked her watch. I've spoken to Dr. Moore. She'll meet us directly at Riverside Park. Officer Brooks has already secured the documents and arranged protective custody for you afterward." The words settled like lead. I might never see my home again. Will my son go to prison? I asked quietly. Helen's face softened. That depends on what he does tomorrow, and whether he helps put Westbrook away. When she left, I lay awake, staring into the dark. I saw Ethan as a boy again, curious, bright-eyed, believing I could fix anything. Somewhere along the line, that boy had become a man who thought power excused everything. Tomorrow would decide whether there was still a trace of that child left in him, or whether Victor Westbrook had taken him entirely. Morning arrived cloaked in drizzle, mist blurring the outlines of my garden. Helen helped me dress in simple layers, steadying my movements when pain rippled through my healing ribs. Today, pain didn't matter. Victor called Ethan at 5:17 a.m., she reported, scanning her phone. Call lasted 6 minutes. Then Ethan made 2 more, one to Claire's phone, one to an unlisted burner. What did he say? We can't know, she admitted. Only that it happened. She began braiding my hair, an old, practical style I hadn't worn since Ethan was small. The men outside. Still there. They're not even trying to be discreet. They expect us to go to Teresa's bank, I said. Exactly. That gives us a window of confusion when we don't. She handed me a pill and water. Anti-inflammatory. You'll want a clear head. At precisely 9:15 a.m., we left in Helen's gray sedan. The 2 black SUVs followed immediately, 4 men shadowing us without shame. They're maintaining distance but tracking every turn, Helen noted calmly. As predicted. Dr. Moore and Officer Brooks. Already at Riverside Park. Northern gazebo. Plainclothes officers in position. Helen took a deliberate wrong turn toward the bank district, exactly what our watchers expected. Claire checked in 10 minutes ago. Ethan hasn't. My chest tightened. Do you think he'll come? Helen hesitated. He may come with Westbrook's men, or not at all. He'll come, I said, forcing conviction into my voice. He's still my son. Somewhere inside, he knows right from wrong. She didn't reply, but the silence was heavy with doubt. As we neared downtown, Helen abruptly veered onto a side street, accelerating through a yellow light the SUVs couldn't make. That'll buy us 10 minutes, she said. They'll figure it out soon. The river came into view, fog curling along its edge. Helen parked in the northwest lot, far from the gazebo. We walk from here, she said, scanning the area before helping me out of the car. Stay close to the trees. If they're coming, we'll see them before they see us. With Helen bearing most of my weight, we crossed the damp park, keeping to maintenance paths hidden by overgrown hedges. The morning fog clung to the air, veiling shapes until they emerged suddenly from the gray. The gazebo appeared first, white, elegant, and faintly luminous through the mist, perched like an old sentinel above the river. Dr. Moore waited beneath its painted dome beside a tall, composed man in his 40s who radiated quiet authority. I knew instantly he must be her nephew, Officer Ryan Brooks. No sign of Ethan or Claire. I asked as Helen helped me up the steps. They're 5 minutes behind, Dr. Moore said. Claire's across the street in that cafe, keeping watch. She says Ethan texted that he's coming alone, but she can't confirm it. Officer Brooks stepped forward, his voice low but decisive. Mrs. Hayes, I've reviewed the material your friend passed along. If even half of it holds up, Victor Westbrook is looking at a dozen federal counts: securities fraud, wire fraud, bribery, tax evasion, racketeering. It's extensive. And my son. His tone softened slightly. That depends on how deep he was involved, and whether he helps us. The U.S. Attorney's Office is prepared to deal if he testifies. Before I could answer, a slim figure hurried from the cafe, crossing the street with her hood up. Claire Monroe. Her disguise, baseball cap, oversized jacket, did little to hide her tension. "He's coming," she said breathlessly. "But something's wrong. He refused to share his route. He sounded cautious, like he was being monitored." She turned to Officer Brooks. "Can you get back up here?" "They're already in place," he replied. "For plainclothes in the park. SWAT is staged nearby." Helen, keeping her eyes on the horizon, suddenly went rigid. Vehicle approaching, black SUV, southeast entrance. Dr. Moore looked north. Another one, coming fast. Claire's phone vibrated. She glanced down, then froze. "He's not answering." Before she could finish, a third car rolled in from the west, Ethan's silver Audi, gliding too precisely, too slowly. Four black SUVs swept in from all sides, closing around him like jaws. "It's a trap," Helen said flatly. "They used him as bait." The Audi door opened. My son stepped out, pale and composed, eyes shadowed with something close to despair. Then another figure emerged from the nearest SUV, Victor Westbrook himself, immaculate in his tailored coat, one hand landing on Ethan's shoulder like a claim. Even at a distance, I could feel the chill of that gesture. "They have my son," I whispered. Officer Brooks was already barking orders into his radio. Claire went still beside me, her face drained of color. "I have to reach him," I said, moving toward the steps. Helen's grip caught my arm. "That's what Westbrook wants, Eleanor. Don't. I'm his mother." My voice was steady, resolute. I pulled free. "He's my responsibility." Dr. Moore reached for me. "Eleanor, please." "I've faced worse," I said quietly, thinking of the endless hospital nights, the faculty hearings that tried to silence me, the years of raising Ethan alone after Richard's death. "Fear has never been a reason to stop." "At least let me go with you," Claire said, already moving beside me. Officer Brooks hesitated only a second before signaling his men. "If you approach, we'll cover you. But don't make any sudden moves. SWAT is closing in." "Every minute we wait," I said, "gives Victor more leverage." Helen's voice cut through the air, sharp and professional. "They've locked down every exit. This isn't just an intimidation tactic, they're planning a cleanup." Her eyes found mine. "You, Claire, maybe Ethan too." "I know," I said simply. "Then we move now." Without waiting for agreement, I started down the slope with Claire at my side. Behind us, I could hear Officer Brooks giving quiet commands, Helen offering tactical direction, Dr. Moore pleading for restraint. But the world had narrowed to the figure of my son standing beside his captor. As we drew closer, Victor became clearer, a tall man in his 60s, silver hair immaculate, the confident poise of someone who'd never been told no, and meant it. His hand remained on Ethan's shoulder, the gesture almost paternal, but I recognized it for what it was: control. "Stop right there, Mother," Ethan called, his voice cracking slightly. "Go back." Victor smiled faintly. "Mrs. Hayes, finally. And Ms. Monroe. How fortunate we're all here." Two of his men, Marcus Fisher among them, flanked us, blocking retreat. Claire's body tensed beside me, but I kept walking until I stood a few feet from them. "Release my son," I said quietly. "Your son," Victor replied, his tone light but laced with menace, "is an employee of mine. And a rather valuable one, if occasionally misled by sentiment." Ethan didn't meet my eyes. His jaw was rigid, his face drawn tight with anguish. Victor gestured casually. "Let's simplify matters. You hand over every copy of Richard Camden's files, sign a non-disclosure agreement, and we all part ways peacefully. You keep your estate, your son keeps his career, Ms. Monroe keeps her bar license. And if I refuse? Victor's smile thinned. Then life becomes more unpredictable. Your accident, for example, reminded me how fragile things can be. Claire stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Those files are already with the federal authorities, Mr. Westbrook. Securities fraud. Bribery. Money laundering. They know everything. A flicker of danger passed through Victor's gaze. Then surely you won't mind giving me your copies as well, unless you're bluffing. I don't bluff, I said evenly. And neither did my brother. Victor's fingers dug into Ethan's shoulder. Richard Camden was a bitter man with delusions of grandeur. He built conspiracies out of shadows. I see the same instability in you, tragic, really, after your accident. The implication was clear: discredit me, erase the threat. Ethan, I said softly, ignoring Victor. You have to decide, right now, who you are. My son finally looked at me. Pain and confusion warred in his expression. It's not that simple, Mother. It is, Claire said, her voice breaking. Ethan, I've seen what Victor's done. Real people lost everything: pensions, homes, hope. You can't stand beside that. Victor's eyes went cold. People die in business. The weak fall away. It's the natural order. There's nothing natural about fraud, I said sharply. Or about attempted murder. Ethan flinched. His gaze darted between us, Victor's hand still gripping him, my plea hanging in the damp air. I had nothing to do with your accident, Victor said smoothly. A misunderstanding. An overzealous security measure. Like the men watching my house. Like this. I swept my arm toward the SUVs, the men at every exit. This isn't business, Mr. Westbrook. It's desperation. And it ends here. For the first time, doubt flickered across Victor's expression. His eyes swept the park, recognizing too late that the joggers weren't really jogging, that the maintenance crew had lingered too long near the fountain. Ethan, he barked, voice hardening. Time to prove where your loyalty lies. Tell your mother and wife to cooperate, or live with the consequences. My son stood frozen, torn between the man who had built his career and the mother who had built his conscience. What would your father say if he saw you now? I asked quietly. The question landed like a stone in still water. I watched the facade break across Ethan's face, the mask of corporate discipline giving way to the raw truth beneath. I can't do this anymore, he whispered. Then louder, steadier, I'm done. Victor's charming veneer vanished, replaced by something cold and reptilian. You ungrateful fool, he spat. Everything you have exists because of me. Not everything, Ethan replied, stepping to stand beside Claire and me. The part that matters came from my parents. Marcus Fisher moved forward, hands slipping beneath his jacket. Two other men shifted with him, closing in. This is your final warning, Victor said, his voice cracking under strain. Hand over the documents, sign the agreements, and perhaps your son avoids prison. It's too late for that, Claire said firmly. Across the park, the illusion of normalcy shattered. The jogger near the bridge flashed a badge. The maintenance workers drew sidearms. Officer Ryan Brooks emerged from the gazebo with uniformed officers fanning out behind him. Victor's eyes darted, searching for an escape. You think this changes anything? I have allies you can't touch, judges, senators, regulators. That's why we took it federal, Mrs. Abernathy said, appearing beside Dr. Moore. Your local influence doesn't reach the FBI. Almost on cue, a convoy of black SUVs bearing federal insignia roared into the park. Agents in windbreakers spilled out, forming a perimeter. Fisher lunged for his weapon, but Helen moved faster than anyone expected. Her grip snapped down on his wrist with surgical precision. Fisher gasped, his knees buckling. "Don't," she said coolly. "I spent 20 years in military intelligence. I know how to make pain persuasive." Officer Brooks advanced, voice firm. "Victor Westbrook, you're under arrest for securities fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent." The recitation of Miranda rights struck deeper than any accusation. Victor's shoulders sagged, not in surrender, but in grim realization that the game was lost, for now. As agents cuffed Victor and his men, Ethan turned toward me. His eyes shimmered with guilt and something purer, hope. "I'm sorry, Mom. For everything." "I know," I said softly, taking his hand. "What happens now?" I asked Claire, though I already dreaded the answer. "Ethan's agreed to testify against Westbrook and his associates. The U.S. Attorney's Office has offered a plea deal." "How long?" 18 months, Ethan answered, before she could. "In minimum security. Then 3 years supervised release." The words hit like a punch, but they were mercy compared to the decades he might have faced. "When?" I asked, my throat tight. "After the trial," Claire said. "Until then, he'll be on house arrest." Officer Brooks approached again, nodding at me before addressing Ethan. "Sir, the agents will need your statement now." Ethan squeezed my hand. "I need to do this." Then he straightened and walked toward the waiting agents, Claire beside him. "He'll be all right," she said quietly. "They'll honor the deal. He's crucial to the case." I nodded, but the victory felt hollow, justice and heartbreak entwined. Helen appeared with a wheelchair. "Sit down, Mrs. Hayes. You've done enough for one morning." As I lowered myself into the seat, Dr. Moore draped a blanket across my lap. "It's over," she said softly. "You did what needed to be done. Richard would be proud." I looked across the park where Victor, still defiant, was being guided into an FBI vehicle. For a moment, his eyes met mine. Beneath the humiliation, I saw calculation, a man already planning his next move. "It's not over," I murmured. Claire followed my gaze. "Maybe not. But this time, he'll answer for what he's done. The evidence is airtight." We started back toward the parking area. 10 days ago, I'd been a woman recovering from an accident and an inheritance I didn't understand. Now, I was a witness to the collapse of an empire. "What will you do now?" Dr. Moore asked as Helen helped me into the car. I watched Ethan in the distance, speaking with the agents. For the first time, he looked unburdened. "I'll use Richard's estate the way he meant it," I said. "A foundation for business ethics and education. Something good should come from all this." "And Ethan?" Helen asked gently. I thought of the boy who once spent hours building model rockets with his father, the one who used to talk about changing the world before ambition changed him. "He'll rebuild," I said. "And I'll be there to help him. That's what mothers do." As we drove away from Riverside Park, leaving the flashing lights and sirens behind, the weight I'd carried for months began to ease. The truth, though painful, had finally seen daylight. And in that light, redemption, slow, imperfect, but real, had finally begun.